Well, the thing is, I mean, with my Asperger's syndrome, I'm only happy. Seems like the only time I'm happy is when I'm doing things that are considered inappropriate, ill-advised, that are discouraged. Like, people discourage me from participating in my obsessive tendencies, although it's the only thing that's ever made me happy in life. And they encourage me to just get a job and work and, get up and go to work every day like everyone else. The only problem with that is that I'm only ever happy when I'm doing obsessive things that might be considered inappropriate, like driving in my car and going up to the New Hampshire's North Country, specifically Littleton, New Hampshire, Whitefield, Lancaster, New Hampshire, Jefferson, and I can't help but always insist that I like WLTN or WXXS, although that could be considered stalker-type behavior. It's like, oh, well, there's just one problem, though. It seems like the only time I've ever been happy is when I go on these binges, such as collecting, late model, standard, SD, with plain old SD without the HC at the end, memory cards. They're basically two gig memory cards that are just standard def, and they're compact flash, standard, secure digital. I've been collecting them. But really, I mean, see, the thing is, it's because I'm compulsive that's the real issue. Like, if somebody told me, okay, just take one, promise you'll only take one, I'd be like, kind of, I know they told me I should only take one, but I'm going to scrounge around for any little extra money I can find. Maybe I can squeeze in another one. Or it's like, I know I should only take one day trip, but hell, this is fun. I want to get out of the house. I gotta go take another trip. And then, one 400-mile round trip to New Hampshire's North Country and back turns into 3, because I just couldn't resist. But it's like, I mean, how was I when I was driving around up in New Hampshire's North Country filming? Oh, I was thrilled. I was having a real ball. Yeah, but the problem there is that I was having a blast filming with my camera in the car. Yeah, but like, what are the chances that perhaps another person, someone else, or even a law enforcement, like an officer, is going to see me with the camera, and they're going to get suspicious? Because it's not normal for somebody to be holding a camcorder as they drive. Yet, I'm not thinking about that. All I'm thinking about is, oh boy, I'm hearing some really neat songs on WLTN that I don't normally hear on the radio. I got to get this on film. Now, stalker-type behavior, in my own way of thinking, is people who can't take no for an answer, and they lack so much certainty in their lives. They're so, lack confidence or a sense of security that they feel like the only time they can be in control is when they do so-and-so. And I feel like the only time I feel like I have control in my life is when I do these obsessive things that maybe the people keep discouraging me from doing. Another way it could be stalker-like is how I continuously insist on WLTN and WXXS. Well, meanwhile, the staff for management of that station might be like, you we don't even know you, leave us alone. Now, the ideal thing is, what's ideal? Get a job. I mean, I have Asperger's syndrome, but people recommend maybe getting a retail job or something without many responsibilities. I've worked before, and I hate to play the devil's advocate, but I was just downright miserable when I worked. Now, was it recommendable to go off on 400-mile round day trips to New Hampshire's North Country while filming with a camcorder in one hand and the steering wheel in the other? No, that's not recommended. But was I happy doing that? Hell yeah. What about when I worked? When I had a regular ordinary job and I was going to work, was that recommended? Oh, sure was. Now, but was I happy? No. No way, Jose. It's like I was happy writing my book. I'm probably never going to get it published, though. But will I ever get the book published? Probably not. Was I happy writing my book and imagining it getting published? Hell yeah. So my problem is, I found things that make me happy that conflict with what's recommended for me to do. It's like I've got stuff I like to do on one side and stuff that has to get done on the other. Some people manage to find jobs that are actually in what they like. Now, this stalker type behavior, so what is it exactly? How can I specify? Well, suppose I see certain people I never met before. There might be a young female, and in all most honesty, it's not a physical attraction. I just like females a lot as people to talk with. Now, lots of times I just develop these platonic, meaning non-sexual tendencies with females, where I just like to interact with them more than other guys. And so I'll start talking, but the young lady might not even know me, and she'll think that I'm hitting on her. And what I do is I have the tendency to forget all about introduction, and I just start talking to people as though I know them. And people say that that's a stalker-type behavior. And even if I know this in the back of my subconscious mind it's somewhere, I don't want to acknowledge it, because then, well, it's just, to me, it always seems like everything that I'm supposed to do sucks ass, and everything I enjoy doing is discouraged. And so I'm like, yeah, I know this is probably inappropriate to start babbling onto these perfect strangers as though I know them, but yeah, I just don't know how to get it done right. What the hell? And so that's what happens. I might know that it's not right, and it could be considered harassment, even of the sexual variety, but I don't care, because I'm thinking, I want to relate with these people. I don't care if it's a little bit off. I don't stand a chance in any other way. Okay, it's still recording. Let's see if it's much it is. I got this going at the maximum quality for this cell phone. Vizio 2010, Verizon Wireless Vizio 2010 model. I purchased in June of 2010. It's only capable of producing up to 320 by 240 videos. I believe with mono sound. But anyway, it just seems to me like everything that I enjoy doing that brings happiness to my life is stuff people don't recommend. For instance, insisting on what my most favorite radio stations are and obsessing on and on about them. Probably not much to the delight of the management if it impacts their duties, which is making money, which radio stations need to do. All right, what about try this on for size. The thought of the practice of renting out a motel room for at least 2 weeks at a time simply to record radio stations without websites that I really liked. And maybe call up the station every couple days. I know probably I shouldn't, but I get really lonely. I'm all by myself. I really like these stations. I insist I need to do that. So I do that, and then I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't obsess about the stations, but, oh, I'm getting depressed. I have to do this. And it's like, I know I probably should drop this and get a regular job and live more like a regular human being and stop and listen to people as they talk and talk less myself, but that's boring. I don't like that. I don't even know these people. I don't, well, and then there's a part of me that doesn't want to believe what the rules are because I never really cut it very well at building relationships the correct way. So it's kind of like I'm in denial that there's only one right way to do it. Now, okay, although my tendencies are quite truly and honestly to, be flirtatious with young women and stuff, it's not a sexual thing. It's not done in a sexual manner. It's done sort of as a habit. It's not like she's a hot young female. It's more like, and plus I'm still in my 20s, so I'm not a creepy old man. But anyway, it's not as though, so it's not the creepy old man factor because I'm still in my 20s. But it's not a sexual manner. It's not like there's a hot young woman there, or I love her, breasts or stuff like that. It's more like I have a habit of talking to women more. But people might mistake that it's because I'm getting horny. I mean, you never know. There are a lot of creepy people in the world. And based on how obsessive-compulsive I am, you just never know. I've had a history of alcohol addiction in my family. My father never had any issues. But in my father's side of the family, there's an alcoholism thing. Fortunately, it skipped over my father and my grandfather. But I mean, I have my own theory going that cross-addiction, particularly for families where there's a history of alcohol addiction or drug addiction, there could be cross-addiction where if you've got the family history in your bloodstream of drug or alcohol abuse, but you yourself never drink any alcohol or never do any drugs, your mind will automatically try to seek out, since it can't find any chemical substances to get addicted to, it'll try to seek out some psychological way to get addicted to stuff. So, for instance, obsessions. My mind or body can't locate any chemicals or alcohol to get addicted to, so it tries to seek out non-chemical psychological stuff. One of the most well-known non-chemical, non-alcohol-based addiction in society is gambling. Gambling, food, pack rats. I'm a pack rat. I like to save things because I feel like I'm in control when I get to save things. Because, I mean, otherwise my life doesn't have a lot of control. I also like to, I develop these fixations with various radio stations and then insist on how they're my favorite. And then I don't leave them alone. And I have to like them. But the healthy stuff, like, I have worked, at regular jobs. Was I doing the right thing? Sure. Was I making money? Of course. Was I happy? No. Wasn't happy one bit. But I was doing the right thing. So that's the thing is, the story of my life is doing the right thing is never fun. It sucks. And I know that when I do these videos, like of WLTN and stuff, there could be a lot of complaints. Like, for instance, it's just, am I putting other motorists, myself and other motorists on the road in danger by holding up a camcorder with my right hand as I try to navigate the vehicle? Probably, but I'm having a blast getting the stuff on camera, that's for sure. What about, though, I'm wasting all that gas? I mean, 400-mile round trip each day for these day trips, and I went ahead and did about half a dozen of those trips last fall. Yeah, that did waste some money, but I was having fun. Now, I could have made more money by busting my ass at a job all the time and putting my obsessions at bay. Probably would have gained me more respect in society. No, it sucks, because then I wouldn't get to do anything I want. This sounds like complaining, doesn't it? However, I'm just trying to tell you where my mind comes from. Is it healthy to go on these 400-mile round trips, per day, where you carry a camcorder in your right hand as you try to drive and post videos of any particular radio station that you will not stop insisting on how it's your favorite station? Probably that's not recommended. But I was having a blast, that's for sure. I mean, like, definitely. And what about just working, like on an assembly line or in a factory, or doing some kind of working in a retail store and working long hours? Sucks. Well, but I mean, you'll be making money and you won't be wasting any money on gas mileage or putting anybody on the road in danger. Or what about trying to call up radio stations or show up at radio stations even if you called ahead of time? That's a little disruptive toward business as opposed to getting the job done. So it just seems like now, with how uptight society is and has been toward anything I've ever said, I hate to imagine how people probably would react to some of the stuff I wrote in my book. Again, I mean, when I wrote my book, do you suppose it's ever going to be published? Probably not. But how did it make me feel to be writing the book and to be picturing the day when it gets published and I make a killing on it, a ton of money? Ecstatic. I gotta admit, some of the only things that have ever brought me happiness have been when I've been participating in these binges. Like purchasing the local tabloid-size format of TV Guide back during the fall of 2005 as they were getting ready to discontinue the local versions of TV Guide. I went on binges collecting those. Did it make me happy? Hell yeah. Oh, in the back of my mind, I had my conscience constantly bugging me that that wasn't what I should have been doing. But I was happy doing it. I was wasting all those gas miles going from Westfield State College in Westfield, Massachusetts to various locations, including Brattleboro, Vermont, maybe, Northwest Connecticut, to get a special Comcast Hartford, Connecticut version, Berkshire County, including Pittsfield and North Adams. I was all over the place. And I probably knew it would have been a lot more financially frugal to just stick around the campus. But I couldn't do that. I had to collect. Collecting is not healthy, but it's made me happy nonetheless. And the things that are more healthy have made me miserable. But the question is, should I stop thinking in black and white, and should I start thinking more in this? Now, the thing is, I've experienced in my life that I really haven't the slightest clue what in the world I'm talking about. It's kind of sort of like that scene in, when I say these noble things such as, oh, how I live with my parents and the topic of my mother and my relationship with my parents. Oh, that's a very touchy subject, that's a very touchy topic, and one where I fear I might blurt something out, and that might not necessarily be entirely true, but I might blurt it out because I'm angry, blurt something out that's not necessarily true about my mother or father that might be bad for their reputation, just because I'm mad at them at that moment. Now, when I say these things and I try to be noble, I'm kind of a BS artist. I admit to that. It's kind of like that scene in the movie Slumdog Millionaire, where Jamal and Salim fall off the train and they land near the Taj Mahal. Like that Taj Mahal scene in Slumdog Millionaire, where Jamal and Salim pass themselves off as tour guides at the Taj Mahal. They're winging it. They're not really tour guides. They're just make-believe. They're pretending they are. It's kind of like pretending I'm a doctor and stuff like that. But that's the only way I know how, to be a BS artist. It's kind of like I don't really know what I'm talking about at all. So I find joy in feeling as though I know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's empowering. It's like I feel like I'm in control of something. And sometimes, though, when I'm a BS artist, it turns out I'm completely right. It's kind of like when writing a scholastic academic paper. Or it's kind of like writing a scholastic academic paper where you don't even know what in the world you're talking about. But if you compose the paper the right way, you might still get an A or a B on the paper, even though you didn't really know what in the world you were talking about. That's kind of what I'm like with Asperger's syndrome in my discussion. I don't have a clue. I just make things up and I try to sound like I really know what I'm talking about, because that's the only thing I've known in life. Sort of like I never knew how to get the proper way to meet acquaintances with people. So I just start talking with them as though I know them as people. And that could be considered stalker-type behavior. But that's the only way I really ever knew how to meet people and how to introduce myself, would be to start talking to them about, like, revealing my special interests, for instance, but never telling them what my name is. And then out of nowhere going, oh, I'm Mark Smith, by the way, and shaking their hand, and then continuing to ramble, as I was. The thing is, I don't like when, now, I'm reluctant to say whether this is too bad, because one of those that's too bad cases, because it's the way it ought to be, but I always thought it was a pain in the neck, where I never liked it when people would always try and stop me and reprimand me for my eccentric, quirky tendencies, such as the writing my book, or taking these day trips up to New Hampshire, or babbling on and on about small-town radio stations without websites. And when people always, like, the type of people I'm talking about are those ones that they sound really professional. They might be psychiatrists or doctors, but who will stop you and make you stop, think, and act about everything you say, to a point where there's always doubt in your mind about whether you really should have said the thing that you said. And anything I could say, it could be like, wait a second, are you sure that was appropriately said? And so I could be just expressing myself, just saying things left and right, blurting things out without even much thinking, without even putting much thought into it. Just it's how I feel. And I could get slammed with a whole ton of complaints about inappropriate things I just said. I hate that. I don't like the surprises. But some people are so darn prim, and proper that anything I could say at any point in time, they could be like, wait a second, let me cut you off for a second. I don't like that because no one likes to be second guessing all the time about whether they should have said the thing that they said. Everybody just likes to feel closure that when they say things, it's okay. How would you like it, though, if every time you opened your mouth, you wondered if what you said was appropriate? That's not how I like to live. Now, transfer that to behaviors, or, the day trips, for instance. I take to New Hampshire's up country, as I call it, the North Country, New Hampshire. Nobody likes to feel like they have to always be second-guessing their actions all the time. I prefer when I get to do things and rest assured that's okay. Your decisions are your decisions, and the choices you make in life are your own. I never like it when people try to stop me or go, wait, is like that. Or when people act scared and they act like I made them nervous. Like I could start talking to someone I don't even know, but insist that, hey, how else am I going to socialize? This is the only way I know how. And then have those people get scared and report that I'm harassing them. And it's not convenient to me, it makes my life more difficult. People could be like, screw you, you were harassing those people. How about their lives? You're only thinking about how much more difficult them tattling on you makes your life. So that's what I mean. I express myself, but then people don't like the things I said. People don't like some of the things I might have said, so they have complaints. Or they might say something like, well, screw you, you didn't think about us. You just start talking. Do you have any idea how nervous you made us? It's like if you rob a bank and then you turn around and be like, oh, I didn't even know that bank wasn't supposed to be robbed. And I don't know. Well, me expressing myself, here's one example of something I'm going to say that, without even putting much thought into it, this is what I said after the Arizona shooting event. Plenty of people could find this offensive, but I'm going to say it. So, I think the Arizona shooting, there is no excuse why that should have happened. I think they had plenty of opportunities to foil the person before he went on a shooting spree. According to one news agency, that person displayed several very violent tendencies on several past occasions, but nobody ever tried to stop. It's kind of like that scene in the movie Elephant where there are these people walking, the gunmen were walking toward the school with suspicious-looking backpacks and stuff, and nobody ever even, stopped to talk to them, or ask them what they were up to. It's kind of like, hello? It's like there's the scene in the South Park episode where this person, Mr. Garrison, says, you know where I could go get a queen? Mr. Garrison, the school teacher, asks Officer Barbrady, at South Park, hey, excuse me, sir, do you know where I could go to get a clean shot at so-and-so? And the officer says, oh, yeah, right here at the library seems to have a good place at the top story window there. And there's crows and stuff. And he's carrying a gun, and the cop's like, okay, yeah, I'll let you in there. Then some other guy comes by, it's like, hey, stop, no pictures of Barbara Streisand. Yeah, okay, but it's okay for Mr. Garrison carrying a big rifle to ask. So that was a good parody. That's what I'm talking about, But somebody could take offense to that and either say that I'm hinting that I would try to do something like that. I would try to go trigger happy. Or they could even go, he's being an idiot by even bringing up that topic, because obviously It's very sensitive, and people are very scared, and it's stupid to bring something like that up. Or law enforcement officials could take offense to me by saying that I'm acting like a bitter person trying to tell them how to do their job. Like, duh, the officers weren't doing their job. What do you do for a living? So that's what I mean. Like, I hate how, like, any time I say something, people can turn it around on top of me. And I try to sound like I'm the self-righteous one. And then somebody, goes, he's an idiot. He's a moron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I take offense to that because I really don't know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like, I don't feel like I've got a whole lot of control in my life. It's like some people like to hoard junk, such as myself. Not as extreme as in that TLC show, Clean Sweeper Hoarders, but bad enough, I mean. Or some people like to eat because they feel they lack control everywhere else in their life. I'm the same way with babbling on a lot about things as though I'm the expert. I don't feel a whole lot of control in my life. So I feel the only way I'm in control is when I think of myself as the inspiring, lovable, life-changing philosopher. That's the only thing that makes me happy. Because it's the only thing I can control. The only thing I can feel like I can have a sense of control over is being the know-it-all philosopher and stuff. Because it's like, my life sucks everywhere. I mean, the things I love to do are discouraged. And the things that I know I should be doing in the back of my mind suck. What would it feel like if one day, all of a sudden my book gets published, and say, David Letterman wanted me to come on his show or something. Or even Oprah Winfrey wanted me to come on her show. I'm probably offending many people by saying this, but by daydreaming this, I'm like, my God, this is a way out. This is like my ticket out. So that's how it goes. Maybe in my subconscious mind, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I feel a sense of desperation. Like, that's why I act out like this, because I feel like I'm giving up. Like, I don't know of any other way to make things work the way I want. So this is the only thing I know how to do. Is to do this. To talk on about things. It's like I want to believe that I don't have to think about it much. I just have to act natural and be natural-like, and good things will happen. It's like it is written, like in Slumdog Millionaire. As much as that might not be true, I have a very lousy sense of cause and effect. So, as far as I'm concerned, maybe I don't really have to think much. Maybe I don't have to worry that much. Maybe I just have to be natural-like, and good things will happen to me. Because I'm a very remarkable young man, and I'm very special. I'm a very inspiring individual. Now, although people might, and the reality is, I don't get it. I'm not getting it. I don't know how the world works. My Asperger's is not under control, and for that reason, in addition to being sheltered, and my father being the enabler of me being so spoiled, I think of my father as my father is the main enabler. My father is the primary enabler of my being so sheltered and spoiled from the way the world is, I feel. Kind of like there are ways of abusing through love as well. Although it's better than hateful abuse, I know that. saying that my father is an asshole father is like, saying my dad's an asshole father has got to be like the biggest lie I could ever think of, because that's not what he is. But basically, I think like all I have to do is love myself and act natural and actually delude myself into thinking that I really am all that and I'm one of the most remarkable beings on this planet and good things will happen to me. Maybe in reality, that's far from the case. But it makes me happy when I think this. So you see how it is? And I've got a very poor sense of cause and effect. That means, like, I have a very bad idea about, I'm very, truly horrible. I'm very, very bad at trying to plot out how a certain behavior, what type of outcome certain behaviors or actions are going to cause. So, in other words, there's no tomorrow. There's just immediate. All I can see is what's right in front of me. I can't see anything else. And so I get blinded and say, I'll just write this book and assume that it's going to get published and I'm going to become a multimillionaire. Do I have any idea how that's going to happen? No, I haven't the slightest clue, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just assume that's going to happen. I don't really know how the heck I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to BS my way through here and assume. Until pretty soon, before you know it, I'm not much different than Jamal and Salim were in Slumdog Millionaire at the Taj Mahal scene, as they were behaving as though they were tour guides. They were not really tour guides, but they acted the part very well. That's what I'm like. Or even in the movie Big Fish. Did the man's life, giving his autobiographical account through his tall tales, did his life really go the way that it did? No, but his tall tales made him out to seem like a much more touching individual than he actually was in real life. Now, had the man told the story, now how did the man's life actually go without being deluded by his tall tales? Probably a boring-ass existence in comparison to how his tall tales made it seem. His tall tales just brought fun into the life. I mean, like, everybody knows his ordinary life was probably boring. I mean, the tall tales made him seem like a lot more of a noble, touching, remarkable man than his actual life made him. So when I talk about Littleton, New Hampshire, I like to imagine that it's some Native American type of a, Indian reservation place with very awkward names for streets and stuff, like Big Rock Road with a big rock on it and stuff. And like to generate it as though it's like some sort of like, or there's a Pocahontas Lake, and there's the Moore Reservoir slightly downhill from the Take Some Out Reservoir at the foot of Mount Take Some. And if they want to add Moore Reservoir to the Moore Reservoir, they just take some out of the Take Some Out Reservoir. You just got to be sure that there's plenty of more in the reservoir. That's not true. There's the Moore Reservoir, spelled M-O-O-R-E, same as in Mandy Moore, but it's not Native American Central. It's just a regular New Hampshire community. Yeah, but that's boring. I like to spice it up a bit. So what I do is I like to talk and embellish things, but then fail to acknowledge that I'm embellishing, so that this fake world becomes my reality. And people say that that's another thing stalkers do. Basically, anything that defines a stalker is the way my mind works. And it pisses me off whenever I'm reminded that, because I've got a good heart. Like, I mean, I don't want to do anything bad to people. But then people could go, yeah, that's what they all say. No, not really. I'm pretty wimpy. Yeah. And then people could cut me off there and say, yeah, anybody could be violent if they got mad enough. That's what I mean, but the thing is that I don't like reality the way it is. I like to manipulate reality into the way that I want it to be. That's the only way I feel like I've got control in my life. So like, for instance, oh, you know, then I could make millions of dollars, and then I could move up to New Hampshire, and everything is great. I'm under control. And then, oh, and then maybe even I could get on those folks over at Ski FM, you know, my favorite New Zealand radio station, to, you know, offer their input on my thing. Oh, and then this will happen, and that'll happen, and all these things will happen, and I'll live happily ever after. Now, in real life, I'm living with my parents. I could never hold down a job. Real life sucks. This is boring. I need to make it more fun. So that's what happens. And I don't like it when certain things I do invoke a lot more anger than some of the more sinister, outrageous things. So, like, you got people who brutalize women or who stalk or who murder or who actually grab people or truly harass or they're truly evil. But there's certain behaviors that will get people even angrier with you than they would toward a very creepy or violent person. Because sometimes there are ways, non-violent and non-sexual too, just there are obsessive-compulsive ways that you can bother people even more than somebody who's remarkably evil. And sometimes that happens to me. Like, there could be people horseplaying in a store and making loud noises and kind of scaring the customers, and they're asked to leave. And then I could try to play the role of the suck-up, because I'd have my own behavior issues, but a lot more indiscreet, a lot more subtle. After those, I overhear those people, either I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Unless you're going to buy something, I'd please like you to leave. You could try to suck up to the same person that kicked those other people out and kind of almost maybe half rat them out, like, well, you won't witness any of that behavior from me. And that guy, for some reason, might take more offense to me because maybe those people horseplaying, he's still related to them. Maybe they were just younger, or they weren't as bad of people, or they had hearts, but they just maybe were being juvenile. But then I was being a little more creepy, even though my behavior was better. And that's one of my pet peeves, is having that happen to me. Witnessing people with worse social skills than myself or whatnot, but their attitudes are better than mine. Or, you know, something that earns the worst behaving folks more brownie points than myself. I don't like that. But I always insist that I'm not creepy. But that's definitely very true. I mean, you can tell. It's most certainly, it's not a sexual thing. You know, the fact that I converse with females more frequently than males, it's hard to explain. It's like, I like the appearance of women better than I do of men, but it's not the sexual. It's not like, oh, you know, she's got nice, you know, breasts or what. It's not like that. It's that for some reason I have this thing with relating with women as though I'm another girl, although I am heterosexual. So it's not to do with gayness. It's just for some reason I always liked being around women more than men, but not because I'm hitting on them. But it's very abnormal, because usually when people relate with women, I think it's because they're attracted to them. You know, when guys talk with women. And what if so I worry about bigotry, or, people who, the girl gets nervous, but she gets too scared to tell me, and she just goes straight to her buddies and says, this guy's really creeping me out, but without even uttering a word to me. And then out of nowhere, a whole, group of other guys starts directing this hostility toward me, and I don't even know where it's coming from. So it's when there's the breakup in communication, and then if a big argument breaks out, all people see are the people involved. So even if I did not start it, or I got scared and fed into the tense words and overreacted myself because I got scared, all people are going to see are the people involved, not necessarily the ones who initialized the verbal exchange or the one who reacted to it, to the initiation. They're just going to see the people involved. So that's what happens to me. And see, introducing yourself, introducing yourself is a bummer. It sucks. Because there's this rule about how you're not supposed to talk about or reveal personal stuff about yourself when you're first meeting people. And that sucks because I get really lonely. It's like, what if I really want to tell somebody something, and I don't want to wait through 3 or 4 meeting sessions to tell them? I'm anxious. I want to tell them. So that's what I mean. There's rules and laws in society, societal norms. But what if those are just boring, Tough luck, I guess, right? Yeah, and everybody wants to feel impervious to the law or to the rules. It's like, for some reason, the laws of society do not apply in my mind, because I want to imagine things and control the world around me and bend it down to the way I see it. So, and sometimes controlling tendencies piss people off more than people who are being grossly chauvinistic or who sexually harass very badly. Like, what could a female, there's some females out there, not saying that any female would like being grabbed, but there's some females that not only would take offense to people who try to inappropriately grab or stuff, but what about that man who would never even dream of harassing women sexually, but who's sort of a control freak and who enjoys bending the world to the way he sees things? Maybe eventually the woman, especially if she's having a bad day, and a man, so I don't sound sexist, but, that same woman, she knows he would never harass her, but she's sick and tired of how controlling you're acting, and she doesn't like how you always insist on how things work a certain way because you want to believe that they do, and you don't want to admit, you're in denial that things aren't going to work exactly how you're imagining that they're going to work. Maybe that woman's going to take offense to you. You're like, yeah, but I'm not harassing you. Okay, yeah, that's fine, but that might be, but, there's different ways that one can get on my nerves. So, and you're being controlling, you're being obnoxious. So that's what I mean. Now, again, is it considered socially appropriate to be making these 400-mile per day trips to Littleton and Lancaster, New Hampshire's North Country, just to get a couple short listening hours of WLTN radio? That might be considered a little overboard obsessive, but it makes me happy when I do it. just as collecting 6 million gazillion copies of the tabloid local edition to TV Guide back in late 2005 as they were getting ready to phase out the local edition, or collecting 2 gigabyte compact flash standard, SD memory cards, because I know they're getting ready to phase out of the compact flash manufacturer for the plain old ordinary SD. Basically, 2 gigabytes is as high as for the memory card technology illiterates out there. The 2 gigabyte memory card's basically the maximum limit for many of the older digital cameras. There used to be this bigger compact flash, CF for short, that were used on older cameras. I'm talking the cameras from the mid or even early 2000s. Many of those cameras would not be able to read any cards larger than 2 gigs. It would just say no card or something like that. And the 2 gig cards, I am willing to believe that eventually they're going to go away, and 4 gig will be the smallest card you can get, as well as they're phasing out of the compact flash. So I've been collecting these cards in abundance, and it's an unhealthy waste of cash. But does it make me happy collecting these? You bet. What should I be doing? People would recommend, anyone I ask off the street would recommend I should just get a job anywhere, even a pizza delivery guy or something, and just to make some money. It might be boring, but it'd be a lot healthier than those things that actually make me happy. So, in short, the unhealthy, obsessive tendencies that I really should not be participating in are the only things that ever make me happy. And the only ever things that are healthy behavior make me miserable. And as much as I shouldn't see this in black and white, I do often see just that. So I'm only ever happy when participating in activities that are strongly discouraged against. And I'm strongly dissatisfied whenever I'm doing the things that I ought to be doing. And writing the book, I kept having these imaginary visions. Sort of like, think of the movie Precious, although I never had it as hard as at home as Precious did. But I'm just saying, Precious was only ever happy when she imagined herself being very famous and stuff. Did that ever end up happening to her? Never. But it made her happy when she thought of it. So, and then people feel predestined to go, well, F you. Because the whole time I was only talking about myself. So, now you're catching a glimpse, a look into the mind of Mark Smith as to why in the world I feel so stranded, so trapped, I feel stuck because I could be going around in circles non-stop, but the fact of the matter is that most of the people I hang around on a regular basis would get angered by this speech about my obsessive-compulsive tendencies being the only time I'm ever happy is when I'm doing things I know in my back of my mind I shouldn't be doing. The only time I ever feel happy, the only time I ever feel happy in my life is whenever I'm doing things where in the back of my mind I know I should not be doing them because they're not healthy. They're obsessive-compulsive tendencies. And whenever I'm doing the things that are more healthy and participating in activity that's more recommended that I do, I'm miserable and unfulfilled. People resent this whenever I tell them that. And in the end, I feel trapped because it's like a never-ending cycle. I could go on this rant for a very long time, and it's just still not going to fix the problem. So that's pretty much where I stand. Like, people would like me more if I could be a success story. Like, I could claim that, I'm a top executive position at a company, and I learned how to control my obsessive tendencies, and I got some very well-paying job, or I'm an auditor or whatever, and I learned how to control my obsessions. They might respect me more. But this is something I never learned how to do, and this is just, I'm just speculating now, because none of that has ever happened. That's kind of like the movie Coraline, What if this world I could be in a world where everything is perfect, But it's like, that curious back world in the movie Coraline. That was not realistic. So maybe either your fantasy world, my fantasy world, I should say, where my book gets published and I'm numero uno, the whole universe centers around me, or even the one where I let go of this fantasy world and I'm living the more ideal dream, and I'm living up to everyone else's expectations. Those both two extremes, both of those extremes could be considered the fantasy world, such as in Coraline, that movie. But real life is not like that. Real life is full of stress, misery, anxiety, OCD, depression, and all that. And second guessing and self-doubt and stuff. That's just the way the real world is. And I love being the expert, because without my feeling, my sensation of feeling as though I'm the expert on things, I got nothing going for me. It's like, and I know it sounds like a pity train, but I have to be the expert. I have to be the touching, inspiring, inspirational caricature. Because if I'm not, I'm a nobody. So that's how I feel. That's why I always talk as though I know I'm going to be a success story, as though it's a God-given fact that I'm going to be a future millionaire who's going to publish a book and be very rich. It's because I am in denial that that's not the case, and I don't want to believe it. I'm like, stop, don't tell me this. I don't want to hear the truth, because the truth sucks. So that's how I feel. And I'm very glad I was able to express this in this full-length, low-quality video coming from my cell phone camera. And I most definitely got to save this video. The truth is very tough to take. It's very difficult. It's like, what's the point of living if there can't be some truth in what I'm saying? Does this all have to be in vain, or is there some truth to what I'm saying here? You be the judge of that. You most certainly want to believe that there's some validity to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Is there even a point in me being alive? That's all I'm saying. Although I'm very death-fearing, so you're not going to have to worry about me being, suicidal, because I'm very death-fearing, definitely very death-fearing, and I just wanted to clarify that. It's more of a quality of life issue for me. It's less so much life or death with me when I get depressed, and it's more a matter of, less a matter of life or death and more a matter of quality of life for me. whenever I deal with depression and anxiety, whenever I battle depression. Anyway, just saying, thank you for listening.